There's lots of tools that you can use to easily create a lead gen piece. But I think, it all goes back to really knowing your customer and saying, what value can you provide to them that they're willing to exchange something for? So I really encourage is continually asking why to your customer. Okay, they said this, now go a step deeper. Move fast, just get something out there. It doesn't have to be perfect.
And then after that 100 videos, you take all the data and say, here's where I need to go, and just run with it, pull in the data and polish it up later.
Something that we do at UScience that's been really impactful for our company is called competitive teardowns. So we look at everything about the competitor, from their branding to who their customers are, to their product. So really just finding that space where you can kind of be different and answer those customer needs in a way that matters to them.
So now you've captured the lead. So lead generation is not about just capturing the lead. You get the lead, it's in your CRM, whatever. It doesn't mean anything until they actually buy something. So what do you do to nurture them? Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Digital Revolution podcast. In today's episode, we're joined by Katie Clark. Katie is a marketing leader with broad B2B experience, ranging from leading go-to-market launches for growth stage companies to executing integrated campaigns for Fortune 100 organizations. She is currently the Senior Director of Marketing at UScience, an education technology SaaS company. Katie is also a board member of the Silicon Slopes Salt Lake City chapter, and she has an MBA from the University of Southern California Marshall School of Business and a Bachelor's of Science degree from the University of Utah. She is also married and has 2 beautiful kids. Join us today as we talk with Katie about lead generation through value-add thought leadership, reports, case studies, and other material. Welcome to the show, Katie.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Eli. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have you here. I know it's been a long time coming. We have been connected over a year now, and
Yep.
planning on doing this. I originally reached out to you to have you on the series of women in digital, and so I'll actually what I'll do is I'll still tie that on the website. I'll still use the same tags and everything and put you in that category, even though it was a year ago. I'm still excited to have you here, and I still want to talk about that. So when we get through all of our other conversation, make sure that we still talk about that piece too.
Yeah, definitely. No, I appreciate it. And thank you so much for being flexible with scheduling. And I'm just excited to finally be able to connect.
Yeah, same. So I am excited to learn about everything that you do in work and in the digital space. But before we get to that point, let's jump into who is Katie? So where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Tell us a little bit about your family life and how you went from there to getting into the digital space.
Yeah, definitely. So I've always been very creative and have loved storytelling. And I think that's where the marketing field really fits in. So I'll kind of give you a background of how I eventually found myself into marketing. So I grew up with a really happy childhood. I have great parents. I have, really good relationships with them. And I'm also a twin. So I think growing up as a twin, it really shaped my identity. Having someone who is with me through all of life's events, who's in my corner, was very transformational and really shaped my childhood. And I've always loved school. So I know I've listened to your podcast before. I've heard different people kind of talking about it. And I think, I just had the personality where the school system really fits with my skills. And so I thrived in school. I loved it. I was very engaged, participated a bit. And that's not to say I didn't struggle in any area, because I don't want to portray that at all. I think I just learned how to kind of play the system and sort of get the good grades and participate and be on the teacher's good side. And then I also grew up as a competitive dancer. And I just bring that up because I think that's where my love for creativity and storytelling was really developed, which eventually led me into marketing. And I think it's such a good fit that I'm, really happy that I was able to kind of take those skills and develop those into my career. And then, after high school, I graduated from the University of Utah, eventually moved to Los Angeles, went to USC, like you mentioned, got my MBA there, and have been working in the tech field for the last 13, 14 years within marketing and advertising. And then just a little funny side bit or interesting, I guess, is that I've lived in a few different places. So I currently live in Utah, I grew up in Utah, but I've lived in Los Angeles, I've lived in New York, I've lived in England and France. And I just mentioned that because I do think it has very much shaped, my worldview. And I also bring that into my experience as a marketer. It really shapes how I kind of approach campaigns and connecting with an audience.
What took you international?
So my husband and I, we were late 20s, and we kind of were just like, I don't know if this whole adulting thing is where is as cracked up as it is made to be. And we just decided to sell everything we had and move abroad.
Wow.
My husband was accepted into a master's program in England. It was called the Euro Pub Health Program. And I ended up applying and getting into USC into their online MBA program. So we're like, you know what? For 2 years, we didn't have kids yet, sold everything we had, moved abroad, and both just did our master's programs. And, thinking back on it now, it's so funny. We weren't scared at all. We were just kind of like, we're doing this. This is life. Like, we didn't have jobs. We didn't have an income. But we were just so like elated. And now I have kids and I'm like all these responsibilities. And I'm like, what? How did you just do that? So
yeah, that's awesome. What a cool story. I did some homework on you before, and I want to call out a few different things that you haven't mentioned. And I think it probably lends into the creativity that you have and maybe seeing both sides of the picture. But if people go to IMDb and they look you up under, I think it's your maiden name, right? Katie Cockrell?
yes. Yep, it is.
Yeah. Okay. I'll also link it in the blog post, but you have been a part, even if you're not like a main star, you've been a part of some pretty awesome things. Like I'm just going to read some here. So Yo Gabba Gabba Land.
Yep.
You were in Yellowstone, Christmas Wonderland.
Yep.
There's
that was a
over
Hallmark
20
movie.
here. Right. Yeah. Which is awesome, right? So there's two that really stick out to me that are I love Star Trek, and your Star Trek Into the Darkness is awesome.
Yes. Yep.
And then Jack and Jill, you were the documentary twin. Either way, so how fun that you've kind of been on that side of the camera as well. Oh, High School Musical also. Right? I mean, talk to me through some of that experience. Like, what got you? I know you said you moved to LA, so that's probably where you got into this. But like, how did that also help you get into the space that you're at now?
Totally. Yeah. So, like I mentioned, I grew up as a competitive dancer, and that's really where I kind of got exposed to these different acting opportunities. My twin sister and I actually auditioned in high school for our first thing, and it was a Disney Channel movie called Return to Halloween Town 4. So it's the fourth in the series. It was an original Disney Channel movie, and we just happened to be exactly what they were looking for. They were looking for two twin sisters, Asian descent, from Utah. And that pretty much narrows it down to me and my sister. And with our dance background, we had a good leg up for that. But honestly, transitioning into acting was a little scary, and it was not something that I was used to, kind of being in front of the camera. But through that experience, we were given, a main role. They gave us an acting coach because they were like, you guys have the look, you're right for it, but we got to help you with some skills. So we had an acting coach. We went through that whole experience, and I was like, this is so cool. This is such a fun career. And I wanted to continue pursuing it. So a few years later, High School Musical came to town. If you may remember, they filmed all of that in Utah. And I was like, I'm going to audition. I'm going to see what happens. There were like 3,000 dancers that auditioned, and they ended up picking 12 to be the principal dancers. And I was lucky enough to make it through all the cuts and was selected. And so at that time I was in college, and I was like, this is very cool. I've always loved school, so I'm going to keep doing school. I've always seen myself like having a more traditional career, but also like I'm finding success in this acting field. So I'm going to explore that as well. So that's part of why I moved to Los Angeles and started getting some of these bigger roles as well. So
that's so fun.
Yeah.
So walk me through. Okay. So you're in Los Angeles, you're doing some of these roles. How did you eventually get into the digital space full time like you are now? Do you feel like your website traffic is kind of in a slump right now? Or maybe over the last couple of weeks or months, it's actually dipped quite a bit and you cannot figure out what to do next? Go to fireusmarketing.com/meeting to schedule a free meeting with me where we can look at your website, talk about your frustrations, and see if there's anything that I can do to help you out. The meeting is absolutely free. There's no strings attached. If I can help you, I'd love to. Again, go to fireusmarketing.com/meeting. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. So moved to Los Angeles, and it was kind of like your traditional like actor story where you're going to auditions. And I was also working, part-time at a PR agency because I was always kind of like very engaged. I want to do this, but I also want to do that. So very, busy. And it was just audition after audition and brutal sort of like getting no's all the time. And yes, I did get some big yeses, which was great. But I kind of just was like, I just don't know if this is exactly the life that I want to have. And, something funny that I kind of joke about with my sister, because she was in LA at the time as well and doing the same thing, is the actors are weird. And I'm saying that as someone who cut from that background. So I feel like, I can say that, but like, it's a different breed of person. And I just really felt like I am not exactly in that camp. Like, I also love school. I love sort of a traditional schedule, and sort of the open-endedness of acting in general was a little bit hard for me. So I was like, I love being in front of the camera, but what I actually also want to do is be behind the camera. And that's really what transitioned me into more the advertising space at first. Was like, I want to be the one coming up with the campaigns and coming up with the ideas instead of just being the one in front of it. And so that's how I really started getting into advertising. And then from there, I was like, oh, well, actually, I like marketing a little bit better than advertising. And so that's where I've been since then.
Nice. So tell us about, what are you currently working on, and like what areas of that really excite you? Like on a day-to-day basis, you wake up and you're like, I can't wait to go and do this. What's that for you?
Yeah. So I'm currently at an ed tech company called UScience. I'm on my 3rd year there. What I still really like about marketing and advertising is the creativity and the creative storytelling aspects. So I lead our brand team. So we do everything from, creating thought leadership pieces that help generate demand and leads and et cetera, but really focused on like the layout, the look and feel, the story of how that's created. We also do campaigns and videos. And so for me, I love doing all of those sort of different aspects, because I like my day to feel different day to day and sort of exciting. And then I love kind of working on the bigger projects where I'm like, okay, let's look at a campaign start to finish. What can we create from a lead gen piece to an awareness piece to our PR campaigns? So kind of looking at it holistically is what I really like.
Nice. You get a little bit of, experience in all the different areas and see how it all comes together and makes one big, awesome campaign, right?
Totally. Yeah. And like recently we got to do a video where I got to hire actors, and I was like, yes, this is so fun. It's like full circle. And like, I know how it is to be in front of the camera. So I was trying to be really encouraging to them, but it was just a really fun moment to get to like direct and produce the video from the other side.
Where you're like, you guys look the part, but I need to coach you on how to show you how to act.
Exactly. I'm like, try it this way, give it this take. Yeah, it was fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you have a lot of experience in the digital space on really both sides of the camera, which makes me really excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to go in and dive into lead gen, which is really what you focus on at your current position. So if I'm a business owner out there and I'm listening to this, maybe kind of dumb it down a little bit first. Like before we dive into the like real question and answer section, what is lead gen and why is it important for me? And what types of business is it important for? And if I'm in one of those businesses, why should I focus on what you're teaching today?
Yeah. So I would say lead gen is important for every single business. I think, at the fundamental core of it, business is around to make money and to drive revenue, or, if you're in a bigger corporation, to drive value for shareholders. So it's important for everyone to do. If you're a small business that hasn't kind of developed your lead gen strategy yet, I don't think it has to be as hard as, some deeply complicated campaign. It can be as simple as finding, a content piece or a piece of data or some sort of value add to your customer and creating a simple series flow around that. And it doesn't have to be too involved. So, for example, there's lots of tools that you can use to easily create a lead gen piece. But I think, it all goes back to really knowing your customer and saying, what value can you provide to them that they're willing to exchange something for? So they're willing to give you their information, enter this kind of relationship with you, but you have to give them value. And that all starts with really knowing your audience deeply. So yeah, I think everyone needs to do lead gen. It's not that hard, and start with really knowing your audience.
Okay, perfect. So what are like best practices for when it comes to lead gen?
Yeah. So like I was saying, knowing your audience, and I'll tell a story here, is like, I feel like so many times at the last few companies I've been at, we think we know the audience. We think we have product market fit, and we'll say, okay, we're good to go. And like, we don't need to like continue building that relationship with our audience and build campaigns on that knowledge for the next like 1 to 3 years. And then you come to find out, oh, I actually didn't know them as well as I thought. So I really encourage, and even this is something that I'm working on now, is continually asking why to your customer. Why do they like that? Okay, they said this, now go a step deeper. Why? And keep pushing till you feel like you actually know them at a deep level. And that understanding is core, because when you have that, then you can create content and value pieces that really speak to what they actually need. So that would be my first one. Second is move fast. Just get something out there. It doesn't have to be perfect. I think, I've worked at very large organizations or client facing as an agency, and really you optimize for being perfect. And what I would say is, especially if you're a smaller organization, optimize for speed. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can almost move faster and create more leads by moving fast, iterating, testing, seeing how it goes. So I would suggest that. And then my last tip is to look at where you are in the funnel stage. So if you're a big organization and you're finding all your leads are getting stuck at the top and they need help moving down the middle, then I would create a different type of piece. Like maybe it's a more involved piece, more of an infographic or a case study that's really going to push people down. They already know about you, but they haven't actioned on it. Or if you're a new company, a startup, and you're working on building the whole funnel, then I would create something more around brand awareness. You have to get people in the funnel first. Mm-hmm. Or, you're getting people stuck at just that very last conversion piece. Can you do something like create a competitive comparison sheet? Can you do like personal testimonials or success stories that'll help them finally convert? So those would be my 3 tips.
I love those. The second one really rings true. I think a lot of people in the industry struggle with this, where they need to move fast. I just finished a book a couple of months ago called Buying Back Your Time, or maybe Buy Back Your Time. I can't remember the name of the author, but I can see his face. Mm-hmm. I'll put it in the show notes. But basically, he talks about how it's more important to do, like you as an owner, a lot of times you are, or a leader, you're like, it's just easier if I do it instead of like passing it off to some of your people, right?
Oh, totally.
But he says that if somebody else can get it done 80% of the way that you would have done it, you're better off to get all of that content, all of that stuff out as fast as possible at 80%, as opposed to wait until it's 100%, right? And I think that rings true with, people wanting to get into social media and TikToks and all of these other things. People want it perfection before they push it out. And I think speed, like you obviously want quality, you want to add value, but getting it most of the way there and then pushing it out is more important, I think, in this day and age, for sure.
Oh, I totally agree. And it's a trap that we all fall into, because I think you can, especially, maybe if it's a, face where you're putting your own brand out there, it's kind of scary and you're kind of like, oh, do I want to do this? And I'm, putting myself out there. But it's always better to just get it out there, and you can get data on how it can be better. You can get data on this didn't resonate or this piece needed to be tweaked, and then you can make it better. And then I also think a lot of it, especially in marketing, can be subjective. So a lot of it's like, I don't like that font. I want this picture. And you're like, come on, it actually isn't that big of a deal. Let's put it out there. Let's get the customers to tell us. Again, going back to the customers versus us doing what we think that they want. Let's have the customers tell us what they want, and then we can iterate. Then we have data points to make smart decisions.
Yeah, data is huge. Data is such an important piece to it. And I think, as you were talking about that, it made me think about, I've been analyzing TikTok's algorithm lately, and I've been looking at people who are successful. And sometimes I'll go and, like, a lot of people on TikTok, they'll just look at the video. But if I like a video, I'll go in and look at their profile and see what they're doing to be successful. And a lot of times they'll do the exact same video, like the same words in different locations or in different places, or they'll post them at different times of the day. And sometimes one resonates like the same videos. You'll have 3 to 5 videos. One of them will have 1 million views. One of them will have 15 views, but it's the same content. So a lot of times we don't know the timing. If you send out an email, you don't know, maybe in the morning works best for one person, the afternoon works best for another. And so trying to find that exact perfect time and message, sometimes you just need to push it out there, get that data, and then analyze it and polish it and get better as you move forward. I know Mr. Beast talks a lot about, if you're going to start YouTube, do 100 videos before you really like change any direction, because you can look at the data, you can look at your audience, you can look where you need to pivot. Over that time, you're going to get better at speaking. You're going to say less ums and ahs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And then after that 100 videos, you take all the data and say, here's where I need to go. And that's where companies, I think, need to take your message right here and say, just run with it, pull in the data and polish it up later.
totally. And I think like if you think back, like how many times as a marketer do we sit and we analyze and agonize over when should it go and what's the right messaging? And it's like, just send it out and, progress over perfection and, just getting it out there and testing it. So I totally agree with that.
How do you recommend somebody analyzes the competitive landscape?
Yeah. So I think, start with your immediate competitors, know them front and back. And something that we do at UScience, someone on my team named Brandon leads, and it's been really impactful for our company, is called competitive teardowns. So we look at everything about the competitor, from their branding to who their customers are, to their product. We do a deep analysis of their product, to, if we can, figuring out how they're giving demos, to their response and their onboarding. And like, we really try to understand it so that we know it deeply. And again, comes back to the customer so that we can know what our customers are evaluating between, if they want our software product or if they want a competitor. So I think that would be first. Next, I would say use tools. We all have access to these amazing AI tools now. I'm sure we'll get to it, but like I use ChatGPT for almost everything in my day-to-day basis. It's actually kind of scary now. I'm like, I need that to survive. But have it tools like that help you get faster analysis on your competitors, smarter in a more short amount of time. So I would say those two things.
Okay, so now I've done this analysis. I have my competition. We've tore them down. We do all that. And now I find that some of my competitors are like really similar to me. So how do I differentiate myself from them if we have similar products or services?
Definitely, yeah. So I think there's a few different ways. I think finding your unique point of view is really important, because even if you have the same product, the way you present it and answer that customer need can be very, very different. So I think really identifying that, again, as a marketer, storytelling matters. The way you position the product really does matter and can be a differentiator. And then, something like we found in our service, we work in the education technology space, is that having a support team and a customer success team that rate high on their NPS, that can be a huge differentiator as well. Like our customers love working with our support and service teams. That's a huge advantage. So really just finding that space where you can kind of be different and answer those customer needs in a way that matters to them. And again, it goes back to knowing them, because if you're in a space where maybe they don't need as much one-on-one hand-holding or like customer support all the time, then I wouldn't optimize for that. But find out where you can kind of find those incremental 1% differences and try to move the needle there.
I love that. So in the intro, we talked about thought leadership as one of the tools to use for lead gen. So first, I guess, kind of describe what is thought leadership and then what makes it so powerful in the lead gen process.
Yeah. So thought leadership, and it also can be a differentiator like to the question that we were just talking about. So thought leadership can really help you position your brand, yourself, your company as a category leader in your space. And so we've been really doing that at UScience, is creating these thought leadership reports where if someone's going in the education space and they want to know about a topic relevant to our audience, UScience will be there. And we do that by creating specific reports using data that's relevant to our audience, or we have proprietary data on our software platform, and then creating a report out of it, and then a campaign and lead generation. So I think it's been really successful, and I would definitely encourage other organizations to look into it.
So speaking of the reports, what are some key components to like high converting thought leadership reports?
Yeah. So I think first you have to find that value for the customer. So I'll give you just an example. For us, we have proprietary data from our software that we are able to say, we have this data in the education space that no one else has. You cannot get the data otherwise, because it's the data comes from our users in our user base. And then we create a report and we say, hey, look at these, data points and how this can help you create, improvements in how you work with your students in your workflow. It can make your life easier as a teacher and take some of the burden off, help you scale when you don't have resources. So I would say really find that unique piece that you can create something that adds value to your customers. whether it's data that you have yourself, or if you need to go create and get that data, there's many tools to do that. You can create a quick survey in SurveyMonkey, or even, Google Forms if you have the audience. Get some sort of piece of data, and then you can translate that into a number of different content pieces. It could be a report. We also talk about sort of atomizing our content. So maybe you take that same data and you make a report, and then you make an email, then you make a social campaign, and then you make an infographic, and then it ties into your email newsletter. And that kind of feeds your demand gen engine for months and helps you kind of develop those leads that you need to progress in the funnel.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people in the industry that this topic that I'm going to ask is can be controversial, because some people believe one way, some people believe the other. But whether the content should be gated or not gated, absolutely free. With AI now, you can pretty much go and ask any question and get anything you want. And so what I love about these thought leadership reports is it is unique. It's something that you can't just go to ChatGPT and get. So tell me about your approach on how you decide if it's gated versus not gated, or maybe even a hybrid of the two.
Yeah. And to your point, like, it is such a controversial topic. I feel like if you ask any marketer, they have different points of view. And we, even as a team, have debated it back and forth so many times. And to your point, like, AI really has changed the landscape, because, for a while it was like, provide this value to get the customers in. And now, to your point, like, they can go to AI and find almost any of the same value that you were going to add. But so the approach that I really like is to have ungated content to provide value, get your customers in, and to fill content on your website. That helps build that organic traffic and build the SEO, build, authority and ranking, and then gate your high value pieces like your thought leadership report. And even for an item like your thought leadership report, you can create sort of a summary or a quick overview of it. And then to read more, you're here and you need to fill in the gate. So that's what I would do, sort of a hybrid approach.
Okay, so now we have our content. We've done our analysis. We've got the report. We know whether it's going to go, gated or not gated. Now what? Like, how do I get it out there? I'm a new company. I'm a dentist or a chiropractor, and I'm just starting. I have this content. Now what do I do? How do I promote that and get it out to my audience or the world?
Yeah. So I would say, look at the different channels that you have to use. So do you have emails that you have in your database that you can reach out to? If so, create like a simple 3-series nurture journey that can push out the report and then push, drip information to them to keep them engaged and push them down the funnel. Or create a social media campaign. I mean, we all have social and all these different channels. You can easily create content for these different audiences and who you're trying to reach. I would also say, look at if there's like paid associations, where maybe if you're a dentist, like you're saying, is there a professional association where all of your colleagues meet and that's where you're trying to get more customers? Can you reach out and connect with them? Can you find these third-party partners? Can you, do some sort of press outreach? That's a big thing that we do at UScience with our reports, is we have a PR team that helps spread it out. But if you don't have a PR team, and I'll share one example, is one of my first jobs out of college. I was at a nonprofit, did not have any money. So in college, I actually interned at a news station. So I kind of knew that you could do this, but you can just pitch news desks. You can find their information online. You can pitch them. You can find reporters, send them a pitch. They will read it. They check it. And just doing that, a campaign when I worked at the nonprofit, I was able to bring in, 3 or 4 local news stations to an event that we were having and just get free coverage. That didn't cost anything. And it's just a little bit of ingenuity and kind of taking a more scrappy approach if you don't have resources.
Okay, so now I'm just walking through in my mind this process. So I love what we've learned so far. But now you send that out, whether it's through SEO optimized blog post or email campaign or any of the other number of things that you mentioned. Okay, so now I as a customer or potential customer get this lead magnet. I click on a link, maybe it takes me to the website, and there's a lead form, which is where the actual lead comes in, right? So what can I do as a business to make sure that lead form is optimized? I know there's a lot of opinions on this as well. A short one works great, a long one works great, or one with steps. So it shows progress. Like, what have you found in your experience is the best way to create a lead form that actually captures the lead?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the worst thing that can happen is you do all the effort, you get them to the page, and then they don't convert, And I think, honestly, the key is make it as easy as possible to convert. We tried longer forms and then we see people drop off, and that's just devastating for your marketing budget and efforts. And so I would make it as easy as possible. Now, granted, depending on your industry and depending how sort of your CRM is set up, you may need additional information. Like you may need, besides just like name, last name, email, you may need to know their role, or depending how your company is set up, but with your sales reps, do you also need to say the territory or who's kind of leading it or the business unit? So I would say make it as short and simple as possible. Put yourself in the shoes of a customer, or as a customer. You want to just get the piece. You don't want this huge barrier, but then consider what industry you're in and your specific company. Because if you just get information that's not usable in your CRM, then that also doesn't actually help.
Yeah, if you get the lead and they don't actually want it, it doesn't matter anyway, right?
Yes. Or like you don't know who to route it to, and it's just like a, floating data piece, and then you have to end up cleaning it up later, and it doesn't, actually drive impact. So
yeah, what's it called? Lead hygiene is a big
yes.
project, right? So let's talk about that. What does that actually mean, and why should we do it?
Yeah. So I think so many times, I'll say leaders outside of marketing are like, get me as many leads as possible, like quantity over quality. And it's like, actually, we can't maybe handle 5,000 leads. And if they're not good quality, that's not even helping us. So it's really that debate of like, how much do you pressure test the form to get quality so you can actually action on them versus just open the floodgates, just get me as many leads as possible. And so our team really looks at the data that we get regularly and cleans it up and make sure, within Salesforce, all of the different forms are filled in correctly. Because I think it's also super easy for Salesforce to get messy, with so many different users. Will we pass it to sales? Did they actually mark it off? Do they keep progressing, or are they just kind of following whatever process they want? So it's definitely something that you have to stay on top of in order to make sure your funnel's working efficiently.
Yeah, and it costs the company money too, right? Most of these platforms, most of the CRMs, the more they hold, the more it costs. And so if you have the data that shows somebody hasn't opened an email and you've sent one a week for 50 weeks, like they're probably not going to open up the next one, right?
Totally.
So, and I guess what I should clarify, depending on the type of company, if you're an e-commerce company and most of your sales come in on Black Friday, you may want to keep them through that. But if they haven't, for 3 Black Fridays haven't opened an email, then you should clean that up. But it does cost a lot of money. And, whether salespeople just want quantity over quality, marketing people, and sales should want this too. They want the people that actually want your product, the people that are going to benefit from your product. And so you don't have all this just stuff in the CRM just clogging it up, right?
Yeah. Yep. I totally agree. I think as marketers, we often nurture for a very long time, depending on what your product is. The more like in B2B tech, it's such a long buying cycle, usually, that like we'll be spending marketing dollars nurturing these leads for a year. And if they're not the right lead, then you're like, what are we doing? So yeah, just, emphasizing your point that it is more important to have a quality lead that is actually going to go somewhere than just a bunch of quantity, high amount of leads.
So let's dive into that a little bit more. So now you've captured the lead. So like lead generation is not about just capturing the lead. You get the lead, it's in your CRM, whatever. It doesn't mean anything until they actually buy something. So what do you do to nurture them? They've downloaded the report. Do you send one email a day, an email and a text a day? Like what is your cadence to try to get them to buy the service or the product that you offer?
Yeah. So I think a good comparison is to compare it to a relationship. You have to really know your audience. Again, if I send, in the education space, an email a day, they are going to get annoyed. They're like, I am busy. I cannot deal with you. Stop bugging. So you have to kind of find that cadence that works for your customer. What is actually going to provide value and when do they want to receive it? And then consider if you were, really building a relationship or friendship, whatever, what piece is going to help them on their journey. So it's really about helping them on their journey versus you selling into your product. And that's something, I feel like as marketers, we know, but it's very easy to fall into, well, my product's the best. My product does X, Y, Z. And it's really like, wait a sec. we need to step back. Your customer doesn't really care about your product doing XYZ. They care about you positioning it as solving problems that they are encountering. So it's just taking that step back and being like, okay, how can I provide content that's actually going to help them answer the questions that they currently have?
That's key. I did a podcast with a guy named Cameron Olds. He's a certified brand script guy, super brilliant. Him and his team are creating an AI within OpenAI where you can put in your brand script and ask a bunch of questions and it spits out stuff that you could use on social media or blog posts and stuff. And a key component to that is, I'm happy to make an intro if you want, because he's awesome. He's brilliant. He's a really awesome guy. But a key component to that is, how do you solve their problems, right? The way he lays out the brand script is every story has a hero. So in Harry Potter, Harry Potter's the hero. Every story has a guide, right? And who's Harry Potter's guide?
Dumbledore.
Dumbledore, right? And then not Gandalf.
Yeah, it's Lord of the Rings.
But the same story, right? Every single one has a guide. And Superman, it's his dad. And like, you could think of every single successful movie, and they all have this same thing. So the hero in our story as business owners is the customer. We're just the guide. We're just saying, here's how you solve the problems. You don't go to the hero and be like, here's what I'm going to do. You go and you say, here's what you need to do to solve your problem. And if you want, by the way, we can solve that. So I think you're spot on when you talk about, creating an atmosphere with this nurturing campaign of, here's the problem we believe you have, and we do have a solution if you would like to use that. So I think that's brilliant.
Totally. Yeah. And as a team, we recently read, I think it's called The Brand Story Script by Donald Miller, and it kind of follows that exactly, and is such a good reminder, because I think just you get so much pressure from different, outside departments and as a team to like push this feature, tell them about that, and it's like, but I have to position it to how it like actually helps my customer. And I'm not just, like you're saying in this story, saying, okay, but now buy this product. It's like, no, they're on a journey. We're going to help them. And if this product can be a tool to help them get to their end destination, then that's where it makes sense.
Absolutely. So what are we missing? I feel like we walked all the way through top to bottom. Like, here's what you do, step 1, step 2, step 3, all the way down to like nurturing and hopefully getting the lead. What else are we missing? Is there a step in between that we didn't talk about, or maybe even follow up after they buy the product? How do we get them to continue to buy the product or service, depending on what it is? But like, what else are we missing that we can help these business owners out there be more effective in their lead gen?
Yeah. So 2 things that I'm thinking of, and then I'll kind of dive into that. So 1 is a postmortem on the project. I feel like so many times we move so fast. We're like, okay, I got the project done. The campaign's out. It's performing. Move on to the next one. And you don't spend the time to go back and say, okay, what worked? What didn't work? What was the result? What could we have done better? And yes, that feels like you're slowing down, but like, we need that data point as a team to improve. And you also need that as a person, I'm building stories and relationships to tell along my career journey for even my next career where I'll be. I need to know the impact of how it went and how I can improve. So taking that moment to really do a postmortem. And then second is sort of the renewal piece. I feel like as marketers, we often focus on sort of the beginning funnel and getting people in, but we also have to work on retention and lifetime value to the customer and really ensuring that they are continuing to enjoy the product and find value. So, whether that's creating a campaign, it could even be using the same sort of data or points that just works as a renewal, that once they've bought, or if they haven't bought, like, here's how we can continue adding value now that you're a customer. We're not just going to focus on getting new customers. We're going to really treat our customers who are spending money with us with the same sort of A-level attention that they deserve.
Very insightful. Okay, so I think that wraps up the whole process. Now I want to know where you see the future going in lead generation. Okay, listen up real quick. I promise I'm going to get you right back to the episode. But are you frustrated that your product or service isn't getting the right amount of visibility it deserves online? If so, and you want my help guiding you through the SEO optimization, go to fireusmarketing.com/SEO to get my free SEO guide. talks about all levels of SEO, local SEO, regional SEO, national SEO, and international SEO. It should give you everything you need to optimize your website at a basic level. If you'd like help beyond that, feel free to hit me up at fireusmarketing.com. I'd be happy to jump on a call and talk through your needs. Now let's get back to this episode.
I think it's changing with AI, obviously, and sort of the different environment that we're all playing in. So I think there's a few things. I think one, if you're not using AI right now, you're falling behind and you may not even realize it, but like people are getting so much more efficient and moving quicker with these tools. You really need to jump on board and use it. And I think I remember when I first got my first cell phone, I just sat there and like pushed all the buttons to see what the different features use. So I would say just spend some time where it's not under company time, or it's like not under this time crunch or pressure, and just figure out what it does. Play around with it so that you become familiar with it. Start using that in your work. So I would say, jump on the AI board. And then second, I think even if we move to like this faster, more technology driven state, we're never going to lose that humanity and the need for relationships. So it's always going to be about knowing your customer. And I think that's something that no matter what technological advances happen, we're always going to have that, because as humans, that is our human nature. So I would focus on those two things.
That's brilliant. AI can be scary, and there's two sides to all of it, right? People are always like, I actually listened to a podcast about this yesterday where they're like, people are worried that AI is going to take their jobs, and they clarified, they're like, AI is not going to take your jobs. The people who know how to use AI are going to be the ones that take your jobs, right? And working at a company like yours or an agency like mine, we're constantly using AI, focusing on how can we give 10 times the amount of value to our current customers and our future customers by using AI, instead of worrying about, are our competitors going to do whatever? Or I think that, even with the new agent stuff that's coming out with AI, a lot of people have this in the back of their mind that like, the business owner is just going to go and do it themselves. Like, I don't know how many business owners out there, but I don't know a lot of dentists that have time to go and learn how to do AI, to learn how to do lead generation or any other marketing, right? And so they're going to hire someone like you or someone like me that has that experience, who's done it with other people. And so I think you're definitely right saying if you're out there and you haven't dove into AI, you need to, like, right now. Stop being afraid of it.
Totally.
Just take the approach that my wife takes. She says please and thank you all the time. Like, if anything ever happens like Terminator, the AI will be like, oh, she's good. She's nice. She just says please and thank you.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to this like growth mindset, right? Like, it's like, you can grow, you can continue changing. You are not a limited person with just a set number of skills. You have infinite possibility of what you can do. So know that, and then use these tools to see where you can go.
Yeah. Katie, you have such an awesome story, a really cool like upbringing, competitive. You've experienced a lot of different areas on multiple different sides and angles, and you can really tell that you know your stuff in the digital space and lead gen. So I appreciate you taking the time to educate us on that. Let's talk a little bit about women in digital. I love talking about this because I have 3 daughters that eventually I want them to watch these podcasts. They're a little bit young right now, so they're like, oh, Dad just does his podcast thing, and like, it's boring.
Sure, Dad.
Right? Yeah.
Totally.
At some point in the future, I think they're going to watch these just to like maybe learn a little bit more about their dad. And what I love is hearing from, ladies like you who have worked your way all the way up through it. Tell me about some of the struggles you've gone through. Tell me about like what it means to you to be, a full-time worker and a full-time mom and a full-time spouse. And like, let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for asking, because I feel like I just appreciate having the light shown on this. I think there's so many times where as women and working moms, we're kind of just nose to the grind, getting it done. And so like having this moment to be like, hey, let's reflect on that, I just appreciate. And so, yeah, I think it is really hard. And I think just like as a society, do we support and create systems that really work for working parents? Honestly, I don't think so. And today's a good example. I have my daughter home from school. They just randomly have the day off of school. I'm like, we don't randomly have today off of work. It's February 28th, like what? Or, they're like, we have a half day of school today. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, so we have to find all these resources. And so what really has worked for me is there is such a pull from like the workforce, from, a family structure perspective. And you really like, at least for me, I want to be all these things to everyone, but you really can't. And so I actually sat down and like wrote out my values as a human and as a mom, and was like, what is important to me and how do I want to try to balance everything? And like, for example, one of the things that's most important to me is like, I won't miss my kids' things. And that is like, I will quit. I will quit a job if that value is compromised. It's like, I don't miss my kids' Halloween parade. I know that seems so silly, but like to my kids and to me, it is so important that I'm there, and I'm there for an hour, and I will compromise. I'll be like, hey, I will work late at night. I will work from 8 to 10 to make up those hours. I will not miss the deadline, but I will prioritize getting there to those things. And the great thing is, every employer that I've worked with has respected that and loves that. And I'm like, by setting that boundary, it's like they're empowering me to do that. And I think that is so helpful. And then I will say, the work from home environment, I know with COVID, it truly was a game changer. I worked obviously before that full time in the office, and some days it was like 8 to 6, and I had to have childcare for that entire time. And that was, really hard not being with my kids that full time, but having the flexibility to be like, listen, my daughter's home from school. I'm still working. I'm still getting stuff done, but I can be there and be present in her life as well, is a huge game changer. So I would just say, as women, I think you can do what you want and you can accomplish these career goals. You can make the life that you want, but there are trade-offs in it, and it is hard. And every day it's like, I'm trying to balance and trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think that balance, according to some of the ladies that I interviewed last year, the balance, it ebbs and flows. There were a lot of people I talked to that were like, I originally started out full-time in the office, and then my daughter needed help. And so I actually quit. I came home, I helped, and one of them actually moved overseas with their daughter. And then over there, they found another job that happened to be remote, and then they quit again, and then they started their own company, and then they sold that and went to another. Like, there's so many different variations. And I think the message that hopefully people take from like listening to all of them is that like, it's okay. Like, don't worry about like culture. Don't worry about what the expectation is. Like, you can be a good mom and have a full-time job and or own your own company and or be a single parent, right? Like, all of these things, and you can still do it, and that's okay. Or you can not do it, and that's okay also, right?
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the idea that there's one right way to do anything is so limiting. And truly, I feel like in the last year, kind of hearing women that I really respect kind of say, you can pave your own path and that's okay. And people can say whatever they want about it. Like, you don't have to please this unidentified crowd of who's telling you what you should do. Create your own path that works for you. And something I also think is like, my partner, my husband, is such a good help with this. Like, we purposely pick jobs where we have flexibility to, as a family unit, be there for our kids. And if one day I have to be in the office or I have this event, he picks up the slack too. And so we really have this like balance. And I think that's important, as working parents, to have someone that you can kind of flex and pull with as you're trying to kind of navigate these systems that aren't set up to support a full-time position.
Yeah. We live in some amazing times, though, being able to work from home, especially in our industry.
Yep.
It's amazing. I took a couple of years, and I was operations manager for some retail chains, and like, there's no working from home at a retail chain, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Like, we're blessed to be in the digital space. And, my daughter, I was talking to my wife about this yesterday, or my brother yesterday, about my daughter who has really high anxiety. And we were talking about her potential future, and she doesn't really want to go to college, but she loves learning, but she loves reading. She loves being creative and stuff like that. And so we were just talking through different career paths that she could take. And because she has this anxiety, but she's really good at editing videos, it would be really easy for her to find a job at home editing videos and stuff. And so I feel really lucky to have the technology that we have these days, because it enables, people with mental health issues and all sorts of different categories benefit from it for sure.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like the marketing field is such a good one to have that flexibility and to kind of be more open to the different types of lifestyles that are there. And I appreciate that work from home and these sort of different working environments are there for more people so that we can bring more people into the workforce. We need everyone's participation, whether that's in a full-time position or it's choosing to stay home or whatever, but we need your participation as a society, however you decide. And your unique attributes, maybe she has anxiety, but she brings so much to the table that we want to be able to provide for that. So I just love that as a culture, our environment or our approach to work is broadening. It's not just you have to be in the office and it's from 9 to 5 and that's just the only option.
I love it. Well, Katie, thank you so much for taking the time today to jump on and educate us on lead generation and talk through women in digital. You have a really cool story. Like I was saying, I think that this is going to be a really good hit on a podcast episode. So thanks again so much for taking the time today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. And to everyone else who's listening out there, we'll talk to you guys next week.